Chapter 2 Introduction to NPM and Express. Installing custom packages to NPM. In our app from Chapter 1, imported packages from Node.js itself. Now the Node.js community have lots of developers who write custom modules packages that we can use in our own apps. These packages are hosted on a site called npmjs.com, where you can search to see which is appropriate to use in your own code. We use Node Package Manager to manage the packages that we download. NPM is an official helper for Node projects that comes along with Node when we install it. One very important custom package we will install is Express. Because vanilla Node.js APIs can be verbose, confusing, and limited in features. Express is a framework that acts as a light layer atop the Node.js web server, making it easier to develop Node.js web applications. Express is used by many companies. We will see later how it simplifies the APIs of Node.js, adds helpful features, helps organize application functionality with middleware and routing, adds helpful utilities to Node.js's HTTP objects, and facilitates rendering of dynamic HTML views. In the course of this book, we will explore these paths in depth. So Express has already been installed as a dependency. Dependencies contain the dependency packages and their version numbers. For now, we have Express version. Each time we install a package, NPM saves it here to keep track of the packages used in our app. npm install Express installs the Express packages into our app by fetching the latest version of Express and putting it in a folder called Node Modules. If you look at your app folder, the Node Modules folder will have been created. This is where custom dependencies are saved for our project. Introduction to Express. In this section, we introduce Express and how it makes application development in Node easier and faster. First, we import Express into our app by adding the code below to index.js. We have a required or imported Express. This pulls in the package from the Node Modules directory. To appreciate how much easy Express makes development for us, we are going to use Express to repeat what we have previously done in Chapter 1. Previously, we created a server and started with that is, we have to take care of importing HTTP, FS, other packages, and also the request and response object. But with Express, we achieve the same with const express app.listen. Express takes care of the HTTP request and response objects behind the scenes. The callback function provided in the second argument in app.listen is executed when the server starts listening. Copy the above code into index.js. So it has already been copied. So when we run our server, it will say server is listening on port 3000. Handling requests with Express. Express allows greater flexibility in responding to browser get or post requests. We illustrate this in the following code in bold. app.get/request response respond with JSON. In the above code, you can see that Express has populated more operations for us to respond better to browser requests. For example, we return a JSON response back to the browser with respond JSON. This thus lets us build APIs with Node. We can define specific routes and its response our server gives when the route is hit. This is also called routing, where we map requests to specific handlers depending on their URL. Previously, without Express, we had to respond to individual routes with an extended if-else statement in one big request handler. With Express, we can refactor one big request handler function into many smaller request handlers that each handle a specific function. This allows us to build our app in a more modular and maintainable way. We also define the type of response the server serves. For example, to serve HTML files with Express, we add the following: const path, We introduce a new module called path. Path is another built-in module in Node. It helps us get the specific path to the file, because if we do send file index.html, there will be an error thrown as an absolute path is needed. Path.resolve directory name index.html helps us get the full absolute path, which otherwise changes based on different operating systems. For example, on Mac and Linux, we refer to a directory using / directly, but on Windows we refer to it using \directory. The path module ensures that things run smoothly regardless of if the OS is Windows, Mac, or Linux. Express also adds things like sendFile method, which if we had to implement without Express would be about 45 lines of complicated file code. Asynchronous with callback functions. We have been seeing a few examples of code with callback functions. Callback functions are an important aspect in Node.js that help support tasks to be done asynchronously. That is, rather than waiting for one task to complete before executing another in PHP, where one task has to complete before the other task is completed. Node.js allows the possibility to perform tasks in parallel when no task is blocking another. Node.js supports asynchronous code with callback functions. For example, the below request handlers do not have to be executed synchronously. That is, if a request for / and / abort comes in together, it doesn't have to be the case that one request has to be completed before serving the other. Both tasks can begin at the same time. It can be that the task to query the database starts, and while the database is thinking, the second request about .html can be responded. Serving other HTML files. To serve the about and contact HTML files, add the following: With that, the server app will serve the about file when a request to / about comes in, and serve the contact file when a request to contact file comes in. So there's the about page. Note that here we use app.get to handle HTTP. GET requests, which are the most common HTTP method. GET request, as the name suggests, gets resources like homepage and image, etc. GET methods do not change the state of our app, it simply retrieves. Other methods like post and put do that, and we will cover them in the course of this book. Saving static files with Express. Now that we are saving HTML pages from our server, how do we include static files like fonts, images, and CSS with Express? To do so, in index.js, add the line in bold. App.dot uses a special function to increase functionality with Express by adding a function to our application's middleware stack. We'll discuss more on middleware in a dedicated chapter later on. Express static is a package shipped with Express that helps us serve static files. With Express static public, we specify that any request that asks for access should get it from the public directory. To illustrate this, first create a folder called public in our app folder. In it, create the subfolders CSS and JS. We'll be referencing these two folders from our index.html file. So this is our public with CSS and JS folders. In the CSS folder, create a file called index.ess with the following code. The code has been added. To reference index.js and index.html, add in index.html the following line. So the link and so the css /index.css route.link. Now that we reference cs./index, Express refers to public CSS index. That is the URL for the static file being served as determined by combining its URL with public. We learn how to install third-party custom packages using npm. A core custom package is Express, which helps make it easier to handle requests and serve responses, thus making app development in Node easier in general. We generated the package.json file that maintains our project metadata, particularly its dependencies, in an organized manner. We learned how to serve static files to make CSS and JavaScript files available on HTML client files.